boys and girls. We are going to be reading Brave Bessie. And this goes along with our essential question, what do heroes do? And we are going to read about a brave woman who became the first African American female pilot. So here's Brave Bessie. Twice a year, a library wagon would stop in front of Bessie Coleman's little house in Texas. Bessie's mom would rent books for her 12 children to read. Bessie loved to read about Booker T. Washington and Harriet Tubman. They were heroes. Bessie daydreamed of being someone special like them. Bessie knew school was important. She walked 4 miles each day to get to school and 4 miles home. She practiced reading to her little brothers and sisters. She practiced her numbers by checking the money her family got for picking cotton. Bessie scrimped and saved enough so she could go to college. She went to college at 18, but left after only a few months. She could not afford to stay in school. But Bessie was not ready to give up on her dreams. She decided to move to Chicago. Her brothers Walter and John lived there. It was a big and exciting city where people's dreams came true. Bessie soon got a job in a barber shop. Bessie enjoyed listening to John tell stories about French lady pilots in World War I. Bessie had never heard of a lady pilot. The more Bessie thought, the more she liked the idea. Bessie knew she could learn to fly too. Bessie quickly discovered how hard it would be to become a pilot. In the 1920s, there were rules about who could learn to fly. Most people wouldn't teach someone with Bessie's skin color how to fly. Bessie did not agree with the rules, but she could not find anyone to teach her to fly. So if we think about what we read here, and we think about what Bessie did to prepare for college, we know that she scrimped and saved money so she could go to college for that. And you guys can learn to save your money too. And over here, let's think about what Bessie did. She got a job at a barber shop, and she moved in with her brothers, and she's trying to figure out a way to learn to fly. One day, Bessie met a very important man who worked at a newspaper. She asked him if he knew anyone that could teach her how to fly a plane. He told Bessie to go to France. That is where she had heard of lady pilots. He told her it would be a lot of work, but Bessie was determined to succeed. She took classes to learn to speak French. She saved her money and was finally able to buy a ticket to France. Bessie sailed to France on a steamship. She had never been on a ship before. It was big and noisy. The ocean was windy and rough. Bessie was a little scared being on a big ship all by herself. She reminded herself that she was on her way to being somebody special. The trip took 9 long days to sail across the Atlantic Ocean. Bessie stared out at the water, waiting to see land. Finally, Bessie reached France. Soon she found a school that would teach her how to fly a plane. After years of hard work, Bessie was ready for her first flying lesson. First, Bessie had to study how to inspect a plane. This plane had wings made of wood and cloth. Bessie had to check the cloth wings for any tears. She also had to check the propeller. After a few lessons, Bessie climbed into the back of the plane, and her teacher climbed into the front. The propeller whirled and the engine chugged. After a running start, the plane took off. Bessie gripped the controls as she took to the air. Her cheeks were stinging from the cold wind, but Bessie was grinning. Bessie had to walk miles and miles to the flying school each day, just like she walked to school as a child. Bessie practiced how to take off and how to land. She learned all of the words for the planes and flying, in English and in French. Finally, Bessie became the first African American woman to earn a pilot's license. People could call her an aviatrix, the name for a lady pilot. That means she was truly someone special. So Bessie worked for years to earn her pilot's license, and she did a lot of hard work. She had to find a school, and then she had to go to the school, and she had to walk for a really long time, like how she did when she was a child going to school. And then she finally found someone that would teach her to fly a plane. Bessie returned to America. She was surprised to see the reporters waiting to ask her questions. Many people were interested in Bessie. They wanted to see her fly her planes. Bessie wanted to help other African Americans. She wanted children to know they could make their dreams come true. She decided to earn money for her own flying school by performing a stunt flying shows. One sunny day, over 1,000 people paid to see Bessie perform in New York. The crowd cheered as Bessie climbed into the cockpit. She was wearing a leather coat, a helmet, goggles, and a confident smile. The plane slowly rolled down the field and took off. Bessie performed challenging flying stunts. Sorry guys. Bessie performed her stunts in Texas, Tennessee, and Illinois. She flew over fields like the one she picked cotton in as a child. Crowds of people were below her, waving and cheering. She had earned the title Brave Bessie. Years later, her dream of opening a school finally came true. Bessie Coleman Aero Club taught African American people how to fly. Thanks to Bessie, their dreams were taking flight too. So if we think about all the things that Bessie did was to help other people. She overcame many obstacles of being a colored woman and being a woman and learning to fly and finding a school that would teach her. And she was able to accomplish her dreams of opening a school that could help other colored African American people, and they could learn to fly too. So now we are going to practice summarizing what we read, and we're going to make this chart together. So over here, we're going to make our sequence chart. So if we think about with our sequence chart, let's think about what happened first in our story. We remember that Bessie loved to read, and her mom bought books for her 12 children to read. And Bessie also wanted to scrimp and save money for college. So I think in our first box up here, we are going to write Bessie loved school and scrimped and saved money for college. Then we remember Bessie saved for a really long time to go to college, But she wasn't able to go to college for very long. She could only go for a couple of months. And so what Bessie did is she ended up moving to Chicago, and she stayed with her brothers. And she got a job at the barber shop. So we're going to say, for our then, we're going to say after a few months of college, Bessie couldn't afford to stay. She moved to Chicago and stayed with her brothers. Then after she moved to Chicago and she stayed with her brothers, what happened next was she got a job at a barber shop, and at the barber shop she listened to stories that people told of lady pilots from World War I. And Bessie thought that that was such an interesting and cool thing that these women could do this. And the more she thought about it, the more she thought, hey, I wanted to do that too. So she tried to find a school where she could learn to fly. So next, Bessie got a job at a barber shop. And heard stories of lady pilots and we'll end that sentence there. So we have Bessie got a job at a barber shop and heard stories of lady pilots. She wanted to find a flying school to teach her how to fly. Remember, she had a hard time finding a school, and finally, after talking to somebody, they told her to go to France. And when she was in France, that's when she found that man that taught her how to fly an airplane, and she learned to fly, and she became the first African American woman to fly. And at the end, people paid money to see her do cool tricks and fly the airplane around. So for our last, we'll say, in France, Bessie found someone to teach her how to fly. She got her pilot's license and came back to America, and she became the first African American woman to became the first African American woman to become a pilot. She also opened her own school. So there we go. Last, in France, Bessie found someone to teach her how to fly. She got her pilot license, and came back to America. She became the first African American woman to become a pilot, and she also opened her own school. So we've learned from reading Brave Bessie that hard work really does pay off. With hard work, you can accomplish your dreams, and I know that each and every one of you will be able to. All right, nice job, boys and girls. And I hope you guys are all staying safe.